Even though I know that this is going to be live, I'm going to make sure I edit this piece for the video to post on YouTube. So I just want to welcome everyone to Couples Therapy Session. This is episode number 4. And I'm Lene Willis, CEO and owner of LP Counseling and Therapy Services. Sponsorship for this video includes Parsons Designs, the company that's located in Maryland area, the DMV area. So if you're ever interested in having any arrangements as far as decorative items for weddings, parties, whatever other events, they are go-to person for that information. And also Blue Hibiscus Organics. They sell a lot of organic products. So if you're looking for bath bombs, if you're looking for lotions, things of that nature, even natural deodorants, moisturizing products for men's beards, oils, you name it, they have it. Soaps, of course, is also another one of their specialties. And all of these items are handmade. And I will drop a link to Parsons Designs and Blue Hibiscus Organics in the description box in YouTube. Now, let's get started. I'm so excited about this conversation because I know it's going to be deep. There's a lot of interesting information that I have to share. And to help me in this conversation, I have my friend and colleague, Dr. Maria Corey here. And I just want to tell you a little bit more about Dr. Corey. She is a double board certified child and adult psychiatrist, the author of Who Will I Be? It's All Up to Me, and CEO of Elite Excellence LLC, psychiatry consulting and coaching. Dr. Corey is passionate about educating others about mental illness, i.e. her being on the channel, mental health treatment, dispelling mental health stigma, and promoting overall health and well-being of mind, body, and soul. In her virtual private practice, she helps children and adults with depression, anxiety, and ADHD regain their function and return to joyful living through medication management, individual therapy, lifestyle changes, and coaching. Dr. Corey loves spending quality time with her husband and 2 children, deepening her faith, engaging in fitness, traveling internationally, and cooking. So you guys, I want you to welcome Dr. Maria Corey. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, Lene. You know that we go way back. We've worked together. We really helped people before, and I love that we're collaborating now. Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure.
Thank you so much for taking me up on my offer. I know sometimes I have these things that I want to do because I want to get information out to people. And when I see that there's a need kind of coming in, I'm like, okay, let's just do a group. We can process this and allow multiple people an opportunity to access the information simultaneously. So I thank you so much for being a part of this. And today we will be discussing attachment styles and safety, and then trauma in relationships. So we will get to some narcissistic things. I know some people were interested in that information. So I just want to make sure that you know that we are interested in talking about it and we'll be here. So let's get this party started. Alrighty, so attachment styles. Before I go to, there's this video that I like to share about attachment styles. I usually send it to my clients when they're talking about some relationship issues that they may have, and they're trying to identify why they experience these issues. And oftentimes it's connected to their relationships or their, when I say relationships, I'm talking about the family relationships. So previous relationships, whether it's with their biological parents, biological grandparents, or any caregiver or provider that they may have been raised in, even if it's like a foster parent or anything of that nature. Generally, a lot of who we become is based on those experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and pop on this video so that you can see it and just hear a little bit more about it. So let me make sure you can see it first of all. And then we get this started. All right. And I'm going to optimize the sound just so we can get this as well. All right, here we go.
It's that simple.
Hello, Psych2Goers. We just want to take the time to thank you for all your kind support. We are a team of dedicated, passionate, and hard-working individuals who come together every day with one goal in mind. We want to make psychology come alive for you. We are self-funded and recently launched our Patreon. If you enjoy the work we do and find it meaningful, please stick around until the end of this video for information on how to get more involved with us and all the cool rewards you can get from us. We hope you enjoy this video. Do you ever think about why you're more inclined to attract or be attracted to certain types of people? Or why the people you've dated in the past weren't as compatible with you as you thought? Love involves constant choice, commitment, and work, which all demand an intuitive understanding both of your partner and of yourself. One useful piece of information is learning about you and your partner's attachment styles. The intent of learning about attachment styles isn't to box love up neatly into categories, nor does it mean you're stuck with one attachment style forever. In fact, it's important to note that as time goes on, your attachment style can change from the way you evolve as a lover. If things have become fragile between you and your partner, realize that this is your chance to grow. Here are the 4 attachment styles in love. Number 1, secure. When you have a secure attachment style, you have a great advantage in love. You feel comfortable going to your partner when something is off, and in return, you allow your partner absolute freedom. People with a secure attachment style tend to have honest, open, and equal relationships where both partners can thrive and grow together at a healthy pace. They understand how to merge together to form a stable ground they can stand and operate on. This probably sounds too good to be true, but security is not to be confused with perfection. People with a secure attachment style experience conflict and bad days just like any other couple. But what sets them apart is their higher emotional intelligence that helps them communicate their feelings effectively and their ability to problem solve, rather than attacking their partners. Essentially, they're highly resilient individuals who understand how to move past obstacles with great care and self-awareness.
Alrighty, I want to go ahead and pause it right here so we can just kind of talk about the attachment styles as we go, so we can go through the video. So let's talk a little bit about secure attachments. What are your thoughts and your feedback when it comes to having healthy relationships and developing a secure attachment in a relationship?
Sure. So let's even, I guess, go back into how we're even determining an attachment style. So usually attachment styles are determined during the first 5 years of your life. And it really has to do with the experience that you've had with, like you said, caregivers, if it's parents, grandparents, foster parents, etc. And so specifically with a secure attachment, your needs and the attention that you needed were consistently given by your caregiver. When you wanted to, talk with them or be held or be hugged, they were there and available for you. But at the same time, when you needed some independence or you needed to try challenges and things on your own, they gave you that freedom. And so you were able to grow not only, securely in your attachment with them and know that they would be there for you when you needed them, but you also learn how to, kind of function independently and do things on your own and kind of learn to problem solve. So I think that's kind of where secure attachment comes from. And based on the type of attachment style that we established early on, it really kind of sets the tone for other relationships that we have in the future. And so again, if we're thinking that, as young children, that we've learned to have our independence, but also work well together with people that we love and rely on, then it seems too that, of course, in a secure adult relationship, we would have more of the same. We're secure in knowing that our partner is there. We're secure in knowing that our partner loves us. We're secure that when our partner's away, they're not necessarily with someone else. They're not doing something wrong. We feel, comfortable and confident in the relationship, in the love that's shared. And then we also reciprocate equally.
Right. So what I'm hearing and a lot of what you're talking about is like that trust factor as well that you have in our relationship. It's a sense of feeling safe in that space with
Mhm.
your partner because of that safety that was created for you and that trust that was created for you from, from childhood. I know with my 3-year-old, I'm always, trying to encourage her to engage in things on her own, but also
Mhm.
letting her know, mommy's right here. I'm not going anywhere. I always say,
Right.
mommy's right here. Mom's not going anywhere. I can help you and I can guide you, but you can do this. You got this. And
Yes.
it's hard to implement that, especially I would say in kind of beginning as a parent, I was very helicopter style, want to make sure she don't touch this, or she doesn't do that, or engage in this or engage in that, but it doesn't allow her an opportunity to develop a sense of self. And it's
Right.
important for her to develop that within my presence, so that she's not just testing things out as when she gets older without that safety net. So
Yes.
definitely I get that safety, that trust from what you spoke about. And
Absolutely. And let me just say, I can't believe January is 3 already. Oh my goodness, time has passed by so quickly.
listen, just the other day I was pregnant, walking around in my heels with my big old butt.
Yes.
But
Shredding.
my child was 8 pounds, y'all. 8 pounds, and I'm under 5 feet. I just want to let you know. But yes, she's old as dirt now, but she's good. Giving me, she seems old as dirt to me.
Oh,
'Cause
oh my
it's,
goodness.
it goes by so quickly. It goes by
It
so
really is.
quickly.
It really does. But you know what? I love, real quick, if I may, I love what you said. It's true. Us as new parents, we do tend to be kind of overprotective, almost overbearing, kind of like, no, don't touch that. Don't do that. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. But you're right. The only way we can really grow and thrive and develop fully as people is to have a chance in a safe space in
Mhm.
which to kind of grow independently and test things out, knowing that if things should really go wrong, our parents are there, or our caregivers are there, or our, loved one is there to help us in those times of need. So excellent, mommy. Do your thing.
Thank you. It's hard though. It's hard.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we have to do it so that our kids can get to that space.
Mhm.
So let me see if I can resume the share. It looks like okay, here we go.
Number 2, anxious, preoccupied. People with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style tend to romanticize love because it's easier for them to form a fantasy bond with someone instead of something based off a reality. They are often attracted to partners they can save, or in some cases, those who can save them. People who have an anxious, preoccupied attachment style can be demanding, obsessive, and clingy. They're prone to overanalyzing situations, having mood swings, and often mistake turbulent relationships for passion. They can struggle from insecurities, low self-esteem, and establishing a strong sense of self because they grew up without healthy boundaries and little to no guidance on nurturing their individuality. Number 3,
Mhm.
So this was really interesting when I first learned about the avoidant style, because not avoidant, the anxious attachment style, because it almost seemed like, and I lost your face. Did I see your face? Can I see your face? Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh, the rest are beautiful face. So, so what happens is that and the way that they have it illustrated there, their face looks so bad, but the reality is that even if you experience this attachment style, you don't necessarily have to have all of the characteristics of it. It's just kind of giving you a sense of what that would look like, and the way that you would show up with that style might look a little bit differently for you. But essentially, and kind of coming off of what we spoke about with the secured attachment style, you're not in a space where you feel like you can share openly about whatever it is that you're experiencing. So feelings wise, you're unable to share that. And two, if you attempt to share, if you're asked to share, sometimes you're told that whatever it is that you're feeling isn't important, or those aren't the feelings that you're supposed to have. So it puts you in a state where you have difficulty with learning how to associate specific feelings with things that you're actually experiencing. So you have like incongruency as far as the way that you show up in relationships. And I'll have you share a little bit more on your thoughts about that.
Sure. So definitely with the anxious attachment style, I think again, in going back to the experience that you had when you were young, again, between the ages of 0 and 5, usually in this particular attachment style, the parents or caregivers were not consistently there for you. And so it left you feeling uncertain and anxious. Are they going to be there? Are they going to give me what I need? Even emotionally, are they going to, give me hugs and love? Even it may be, with basic needs, food, clothing, shelter. Is this going to, be something that I can rely on getting consistently? And so again, if that's inconsistent in growing up, it's going to make you worry and anxious and constantly check or doubt, that things are going to work out well. And it carries on again into adult relationships. So that may even look like, being uncertain about, the person you're dating or your spouse, or, wondering, do they really love me? How do I know? And looking for constant reassurance, constant signs of affection, maybe even being overbearing in terms of them. Where are you going? When you coming back? Let me checking through phones and things like that. But again, that's kind of representative. And again, it doesn't have to be all of those things, but again, like you said, it can be, a little bit of it, it can be a lot of it, or maybe even a little bit more, but those are signs of like an anxious attachment style.
And to be clear too, like with what Dr. Corey is saying, if you're checking someone's phone, there's a difference between like checking someone's phone because there was infidelity in the relationship,
Yeah.
and like checking someone's phone because you're just feeling insecure about the relationship. Right?
Yes.
So I don't
Yes.
want you to think, oh, well, I have to check his phone, or I feel like I need to check her phone or check her location or whatever because she cheated on me before. And so I must be, anxious. No, that's not what she's saying. She's saying that this is just one of the ways that it can show up for you if you have this attachment style.
Absolutely. And thank you for clarifying that, because you're right. I mean, if there's been trauma in the relationship, then that kind of can change things. That's a stressful situation that can make you act out of your normal, attachment style. And even you may have just a trauma like a PTSD response. So you're right. That's something different than just naturally, like you said, feeling insecure. And they haven't given you any reason to think that something, shady is going on, but just to reassure yourself, you may kind of be, going through their things or doing things that you don't need to do. So yeah.
Right.
Great point.
I had a client, I have a client, in the couple of relationship, one of the things that was brought up was about checking phones and not having any reason or any rationale for doing so, but just with this particular person feeling that way. So sometimes you can have cases where in some relationships you feel very secure because of that other person's relationship style. But then with another person, you can get with them and feel very anxious and insecure about that relationship. And so the attachment and the love that's demonstrated in that relationship would look clingy, or it may look like you can't trust that person. And there's that word again, trust, right?
Yeah.
It's because of some things that may have been brought up in your childhood that leads you to having those moments with certain people that would end up kind of triggering that response because of that attachment. So there's that situation too, that conundrum that can exist as well, which is odd, but it happens.
Definitely. And one other thing, let me just add to, you're right. So if kind of trust is breached early on in your life, it can definitely, cause trust issues in your relationships. But even just like you said, previous relationships, say you grew up and you had a secure attachment style, but you got with someone, you were with them for a year or more, and they really did things that made you feel distrustful, then that can also change your attachment style moving forward if you're not careful.
Yeah. And it's sad because it's almost like a cycle. It's almost like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because even if you, like you said, grew up in that secure attachment style home, one relationship could be really traumatic where it can change that course, and then it can really be challenging to break that down. And I want us to talk a little bit about how we can break that down at the end. But definitely something that we need to make a note of, because that's hard. It's hard. I've been cheated on, so I know that I guess it was like maybe high school, early college, and being at that age and experiencing that, it was traumatic for me because I was in a relationship for such a long time, and I had such a safe sense of what that relationship provided. I felt secure in the relationship, but then when you find out that the person's been cheating on you and had been cheating on you for X period of time, all that period of time where you felt or had that sense of safety, it just kind of brings a lot of things into question, and it makes you doubt and have trust issues moving forward into relationships. And so we'll
Absolutely.
talk a little bit about how to like mend, how to move forward into healthy relationships coming from an unhealthy relationship like that. So
Mhm.
let's go back to the video, continue sharing here.
Dismissive, avoidant. People with a dismissive, avoidant attachment style tend to be emotionally distant in relationships. They come across as self-sufficient, independent, and can avoid true intimacy. Although space is essential for two people to breathe and be themselves in any relationship, people with a dismissive, avoidant attachment style can seek it more frequently to push themselves away from being vulnerable with their partner. If at any point their partner threatens to leave them, they have the ability to shut their emotions down and pretend like they don't care. But extreme independence is an illusion because humans need connection in order to survive. As a result, people with an avoidant, dismissive attachment style have very few close relationships with others.
Yeah. So the dismissive avoidant, what are your thoughts on this attachment style?
Right. So the dismissive avoidant attachment style, I feel like, again, when you're young, if you had a disconnect between you and your caregivers, if your physical needs, if your emotional needs were not met, and, more so in this style, consistently not met, then you almost tend to become overly independent, or you don't want to share. You don't let people know when you need something. You don't let people know when you're vulnerable. You don't let people know how you feel anymore, because when you've tried that in the past, it's been met with, not received well, or someone was not open to listen or to give you what you need or to provide what was needed. So you kind of learn to just build these walls, and you're like, well, I guess I don't need anyone since no one has been there for me. And again, carrying this into adulthood and relationships, it could definitely cause for a lot of, trouble, even getting close. Well, first, forming any real relationships with people, number one, but two, if you are in a relationship, that lack of communication, that lack of vulnerability, that lack of letting people in, but also a lack of being there for other people the way that they may need you to be, can really cause problems.
This is a weird analogy, but it makes me, when you were describing that, it made me thought about the ogre in Shrek. And
Yeah.
how he was towards Fiona and then towards the donkey. The donkey was like very like interested in being his friend, chipper, trying to get him to be interested in just the life. And he was just kind of glum, just like disinterested. But he really cared for Fiona. He wanted to protect her. He wanted to love her. And it took some time for him to get to that point. But all the layers that had to be worn down just to get him to that point, it could be a lot. And unless you have a donkey in your life, that's going to get there, and a Fiona who's going to be supportive and patient with you along the process, you may not be able to experience the love that you truly need and desire, because you're avoiding and dismissing those opportunities to do so.
Right. That's a great analogy. I love that. And even in the movie, they said ogres are like onions. They have layers that need to peel back. So yeah.
Right.
And I think it's reflective of like what he had experienced. Everywhere he turns, people are like afraid of him, or wanting to kill him, or not wanting him around, fearful of what he may do, which of course would made him kind of wall himself off and say, well, fine, you don't accept me, you don't love me, you don't, accept me for who I am, then I won't accept you. Stay away. I'm in my swamp. I don't want to be bothered. Even someone who wants to show me love, I don't need you. I can do it on my own. So that's a perfect analogy of the dismissive avoidant type.
I just saw him in my head. All right, let's go to the next attachment style.
Number 4, fearful avoidant. People with a fearful avoidant attachment style experience a delicate mixture, fearing being both too close or too distant from their lover. They can be unpredictable and are often overwhelmed by their own emotions. They understand they have to approach others in order to find love, but when people get too close to them, they often hurt them. They fear being abandoned, but struggle with being confident in their partner and relying on them. They face a lot of inner conflict between wanting intimacy and resisting it. As a result, they usually experience many highs and lows in relationships, cling to their partners when they feel rejected, and if not careful, can end up in abusive relationships. Similar to the dismissive avoidant attachment style, these individuals have very few close relationships with others. Accepting what your attachment style is and recognizing the work that comes with it can be life-changing and powerful. And we hope that this information can teach you to become more self-aware and help you become a better lover.
All right, so we'll end this video here.
Mhm. This is a nice video too.
Huh?
This is a nice video.
Thank you. Thank you. I love sharing that video with my clients because it makes them feel like they could relate more to, to the animation, the characters that are animated. It helps them with better identifying where they fit.
Right.
So what are your thoughts? When I saw that, I was thinking to myself, oh man, yes, I thought of a client that I have in mind. And with this particular client, there were some issues growing up where as a child, they grew up in a secure attachment style. But then later on in teenage years, there were some relationships within the home, as far as like step parent goes, that kind of infiltrated the security and the trust that was it was breached in the relationship, and it caused the client to have some dismissive and fearful attachments when it comes to relationships. And so now my client is currently in this up and down. I kind of call this attachment style like the bipolar of attachment styles, because it's like you're going but you're not going, but you're not sure. And it's really difficult to maneuver in relationships because your partner, it could be very tiring for them because they don't know who they're going to get this day in the relationship. And it's challenging, but I feel like if you can have a Fiona or someone who's going to help with recreating that sense of security and trust, that it can be valuable. That relationship can be valuable for you as far as like turning the wheels back and returning to that secure attachment that you need to create a healthy relationship. So what are your thoughts on this attachment style, and also some tips and tools to help with navigating those attachment styles that aren't helpful for relationships?
Okay. So yeah, so this is the fearful avoidant attachment style. Right. So again, just kind of going back to your early life experiences, I think that this attachment style tends to develop when there's trauma. So if there's abuse, if there's neglect, and maybe even there were some times when things were good between the caregiver and the child. But basically it leaves the child, wanting the affection, wanting the attention, wanting to spend time with the caregiver, but not knowing if they're going to get hurt, or not knowing if they're going to be left alone, or not knowing what the result may be. Like you said, it almost seems like, I don't know what you're getting this day, so at least you're like, I want to be with you, but wait a minute, I don't want to get hurt either. So you're kind of in a state of flux. You're like, yeah, I want it, but I'm scared. And I want it, but I'm scared. So maybe I should just avoid it altogether because I just don't know what's going to happen. So again, that again, sets the tone for adulthood. And you bring that same energy, if you will, into these new relationships where you're like, I want to be close, but I've been hurt before. So let me pull back. I want to do this, but I don't know, you may leave. So it's a very fearful type of situation. You're not secure. You don't feel confident. The trust is not there again because it had been breached early on. And so that type of cycle, like you said, just continues. And you're right. It takes a very special partner to be able to engage with someone with that type of attachment style, because you're not sure what you're going to get that day. And you're not even sure how to respond sometimes to the way the person may be responding to you. So it can be very challenging.
Right.
Yeah.
And then can you speak to, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, because I think you had asked the second part was how do we kind of help people that may have the insecure attachment styles if we're in a relationship with them? Is that kind of the question that you posed? Okay. So I'm going to be honest with you. I think for me, and you let me know too, your take on this, I think it's important that a relationship, honestly, is not just of two people, but it involves God as well. And so for any relationship, secure, fearful, anxious, dismissive, avoidant, whatever it is, if you want a healthy relationship, it has to include God. Because honestly, he's the one that models for us what true love is. what true security is, what peace is, joy is, and all of that. He is love. And so in order for us to give that to others and be patient and kind and all of those things with others, we have to first experience it with him. And so I
I
feel
like
like, go
that.
ahead. Mhm. Thank you.
And I
But I
was
felt
going to say too, so like when you mentioned all those things, I thought about the fruits of the spirit, right? And all
yes.
those qualities, those characteristics that are helpful and healthy in relationships so that we can feel like we can be vulnerable in a relationship. Because at the end of the day, in order for there to be strength,
Mhm.
emotional strength in a relationship, there has to be an emotional and physical and calm space where you can feel open to share whatever it is that you're experiencing, knowing that they're going to support you and love you through it all. And you're
Yes.
right, sometimes the basis for the support that you experience is rooted in God. It's
Mhm.
rooted in, whomever you view as your higher being or your higher power.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
for me, as a Christian, it would be Jesus. And so because I
Absolutely.
learned about, God's love through his life and the way that he's demonstrated that to other people, it's something that I would like to mimic in my relationships. And it helps me with feeling secure, even if things aren't going that great in my marriage. If I'm mad at him because he left his towel on the floor, or he shaved his beard and his hair in the toilet or whatever, I heard something the other day, and it was something along the lines of, don't let roommate issues, ruin your marriage. I'm like, this is
I
so
like
true.
that.
But again, if we recognize that our partner, and the love that was created is rooted in God,
Mhm.
those roommate issues and things like that would dissolve almost, because when you're with your partner, you're recognizing that they aren't an enemy. It helps you with
Mhm.
building a very secure attachment to that relationship. And again, with kind of God serving as the umbrella for that relationship, you have nothing else left to do but to flourish.
I agree. I agree. And then also realizing like none of us are perfect. Even if we have a
Yes.
secure
Yes.
attachment style, it doesn't mean we're going to do things right all the time. It doesn't mean we're going to say the right things all the time. It doesn't mean we're going to respond, the right way all the time. And so I think just realizing that we're all human, we're all going through difficulties. But in a relationship, you respect one another, you love one another. And the ultimate goal is to move forward together, boosting each other up when the other needs it. And then you may need, the reciprocity of that, the other may need the same thing. That has to be like the common goal and the common thread. We're both imperfect, but we're striving to make this a wonderful relationship together.
Right. So as far as the emotional and physical safety that might threaten the health of the relationship, when you think about the role of narcissistic behaviors, kind of like transition and switching gears a little bit, like what are your thoughts on how, like, first of all, how do you even decipher if a relationship is something that's healthy? Like, what are some things that you would say are like the top few rules or red flags or things to kind of show you, this relationship may not be one that's healthy. Maybe it's something that's toxic, or maybe there's narcissistic behavior in the relationship that's causing or threatening the relationship. What are some ways that you can identify that?
Okay. So you want red flags, or you want what I look for in a healthy relationship?
Both.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, let me even start with the positives, because I like for people to kind of go in having an idea of what they want, and what to look for first. So I think first off, make sure that there's honesty and trust. I think that's really important, because again, you want to be honest yourself with what it is you're looking for, but you also want your partner to be honest about that as well. And also honest about, what they do, what they say. If they say they're going to do something, are they going to follow through on it? If we're going to make this work, are we committed to making it work? If you're going to say you're going to work on yourself for something, are you really going to do it? Because I'm going to try to make sure that I do it on my end. So I think honesty and trust is huge. And as we've seen with a lot of the insecure attachment styles, when there's a lack of trust, it can make for really, poor relationships. So I think trust is really important. I think also having a common faith or common belief system is really, really important.
I wrote
So
that.
yes, Arona, absolutely. And so I'm like you, I'm Christian. Jesus is the way. the light. So I'm definitely looking for someone who, definitely believes that first too and foremost. And again, the principles, based on your belief system really guide you, like you said, through the trials and tribulations you may experience in your relationship. So if an argument does occur, okay, if we both have the same belief system, then we're going to tackle it in the same way. We may pray about it. We may seek to do what's right, not just what feels good for me or what benefits you or what, that type of thing may occur, but you're going to kind of be on the same path and guided by the same principles. I think another important thing too is to look for someone who is relationship and family oriented. So again, looking for someone that's not just selfish, not just looking out for themselves. It could be a situation where they're like, well, I like the way you make me feel. Well, that's not enough to make a good relationship. Or I like what you do for me. I like what you can do for me. That's not enough to make a good relationship. You want someone who can look beyond themselves and be selfless and giving to you, and you also reciprocate that. So I think someone who's not selfish is really important. Another thing is too, maybe really having good problem solving skills, I think is important to look for in a relationship too. Things are not going to always go the way that we plan or hope for, but how can we work together to make it right? How can we work together to make this the best outcome for you and for me, and for, us as a couple moving forward closer to our goals? So really having someone that will take the time to try to explore ways to problem solve with you, as opposed to being rigid, can really make for a good relationship. Let me see I'm trying to see where I am with.
I asked you like a million questions back to back, rapid fire.
Yes. Yes. I think also what's important to look for is someone who has shown kind of like loyalty and love. So someone who, maybe in their relationship with their mother or father, or with their caregiver, or with their siblings, or even with other friends, are they loyal to that person? Are they consistent with that person? Because again, people show you who they are, and it would behoove us all to believe what we see, not just what we hope. And so if someone's consistently good-natured, kind, and loving and consistent with other relationships in their lives, they're going to be more likely to be the same way with you. And again, vice versa.
So then that tells us that when we're dating, we have to be attentive, as far as not just attentive to your partner's needs, but attentive as far as like being aware of their behavior, not just with you, but also with other people, because it teaches you a lot about who they truly are. And when, the representative of them is gone, you get to see who they truly are. And you can accept them because, okay, well, I know, he's this way in front of my face, but when I see him with his mom, he's still kind. He's still respectful. She asked him to do something and he was able to come through. He's dependable. So part of that too would, from what you're saying and what I'm gleaning, is that we have to know ourselves. We have to know what it is that we want and what we desire ourselves, so that we will know what to look for in our partners and who would be a good fit. Now, would you say that if they have certain red flags in a relationship, does that mean that that you shouldn't try to pursue that relationship, or you should end the relationship? Look, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on the red flag. Okay. And I think it depends on how consistently you're seeing that red flag. Because I think, kind of what you were alluding to is, you're right. Early on, everyone presents their best foot forward, and it's the honeymoon period. And oh my God, he's so fine. He could do no wrong in my eyes. And likewise, guys may feel the same about a woman that they're dating. But I think, like big red flags early on can definitely save you a lot of heartache down the road. So again, kind of for me, kind of reflecting what I said, I'm looking for in relationships. If you see the opposite of that, that may be a sign to you that this may not be something I need to pursue. So if you know that someone is untrustworthy or not honest, for me, I'm running for the hills. Someone else may want to try to sort through that and work through that. But for me, like, no, that's a hard no for me. Again, for me, being that I'm Christian, I'm looking for someone that is Christian as well, so that we have that common belief system and that we'll tackle problems in the same way, and we, kind of believe the same way. I think if not for me, that would be a no for me. But there are successful relationships that do have people of differing faiths that can work it out. Again, you have to be open-minded. You have to be, patient. You have to be kind and understanding, and have some flexibility there in terms of, they may not believe what I believe, but I love them anyway, and I respect them enough to let them do what they do. But again, knowing that we love and cherish one another. So again, like I said, it's not always hard and fast with the red flags. It depends on what they are for the individual person, and whether or not you think you can work through them. So like another one could even be, if someone's really selfish, like I'm gone. Yeah, I don't want to deal with that. Or if they're, treating people unkindly. Again, it's not so much what we see in terms of how someone treats someone who's important or treats someone who can give them something. Of course, they're going to treat them well. But how are they treating the janitor? How are they treating, their third cousin twice removed that may be asking for money? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are they treating?
Right.
How are they treating people that they may not be benefiting from? Are they still kind? Are they still courteous? Are they still, loving? And if so, I think that's great. And that's the type of person you want. But if not, that can be a really, big red flag for people like, yeah, this is not the type of person you want to be around. Oh, and if I may say, so this is interesting. I just watched I don't know if it was a TikTok or something recently where it was a bunch of young African-American men. They were sitting around and talking about what they are willing and not willing to do in relationships. And the particular topic that they were talking about is, okay, say a woman has invited you over, to pick her up to go out on a date. She's giving you her address. You pull up to her address and you're ready to have her come out.
Uh-oh.
Do you go to the door? Do you ring the doorbell? Do you escort her to the car, open the door? Or do you just text her, here, come on out? And if you can hear the conversations that these guys are having, I was just floored. I was like, wow, I don't know if it's a generation. I don't know if it's just these particular guys or what they've been exposed to or experienced, but the majority of them were like, yeah, if I've gone through the trouble of driving there and washing the car and I'm going to pay for dinner and all that, she can come out on her own. Here is all I'm going to take. And she better come on out. And I was like, really? So for me, that's a red flag. You know what I'm saying? For me, if the chivalry is not there, for me, if you're not willing to go the extra mile to come and get me from the house, to open the doors and all of that, then what are you going to do when, say, we can't meet a bill, or say I need you to help with the kids, or say we need to, I need you to come pick me up from work because my car's broken down? Are you going to keep that same lazy energy? Or are you going to go above and beyond and meet me where I need, knowing that I'm also going to do the same for you? So again, for me, that'd be a big red flag. But for some women, that may not be. But again, it's individual. So those are just some examples.
I get that. No, I completely agree with you. I feel like there are some things in a relationship, where there might be something that may not work for you, but I might be like, oh, I don't care. I might be okay with a hair text because I might be sitting there just waiting for the text, looking at my phone like, he ain't text me, he not here yet, is he, and then I'll be ready to come outside. But at the same token, I think we have to do the work in ourselves. We have to be able to figure out what it is that we want and what it is that we need, so that when we're looking for relationships, we're making decisions that are best suited for us. And then I also feel like sometimes you ever, I don't know if you've ever had a friend where whenever she's dating a certain guy, if she's dating a rock star, then she's a rock star. If she's dating a pastor, then she's a pastor's wife. Or if she, like her personality, whoever she is, it changes based on whomever she's dating. Like if your personality and if who you are, your characteristics are so fickle, then it definitely would most likely lead to you get into relationships where you're using your relationship to identify who you are. And that's an issue. And that could pose, it could be a safety concern if you end up with someone who may be an aggressive person or who doesn't know how to resolve conflict or whatever other issues that could lie in those types of relationships. But for the most part, you just have to be careful and you have to do your due diligence. Before you get into your relationships, you have to do the homework. You have to kind of figure out what it is that you desire and then go after that, and not feel like, bad if your friend says, oh, well, he was paying for your dinner. He's doing all of the least you could do is go to the car when he says he's outside. If you have something that you believe, that you strongly believe in, and this is what is important to you because you feel like it's indicative of other behaviors, then do that. Now, I don't think that you necessarily have to be a B, when you say to the person, oh, hey, can you come inside? Is it okay if you come inside? And, I'll prefer if you receive me from the door or something like that. There's a way that you can communicate the things that you desire, because sometimes guys don't know. They may
Right.
not know your preference. They may have dated
Right.
someone who is standing outside in the cold waiting for them to show up. And so they're not
Right.
accustomed to
You're
certain
right.
things too. So there may be a little bit of an adjustment period, but again, if you're not communicating what it is that you need, and if you don't know what you need, you're definitely not gonna get what you want. So closed mouths don't
Right.
get.
Right. So see, I love it. You even brought up some other really good, like, red flags to look for. So poor communication, someone who doesn't communicate well, for sure, that can make it very difficult to have a good relationship. If there's violence involved, if you can see that they're consistently a violent person, and we're talking about not even just physical violence, but just verbally or emotionally, yeah, that's a red flag. You need to kind of be careful there in those situations, or completely avoid it altogether. And then I think just in general, well, those are the main ones, to be honest with you. But like you said, it's very individual. Every person's going to have their own, what I will accept, what I won't accept. But usually moving forward, like you said, you want to make sure that you're doing your homework. You don't want to rush into a relationship. You'd like to, get to know them first, get to know them as friends, meet their friends, meet their family, see how they interact, see how they act when they're angry, see how they act when they're sad or disappointed. And get a feel for that before you kind of, in a sense, kind of lock yourself into a relationship that you feel that you may not be able to get out of.
Exactly. And when you spoke about the emotional and the physical abuse, I feel like a lot of us kind of know what the physical abuse looks like. But when we talk about emotional abuse, we're talking about not feeling emotionally safe. In other words, you're unable to share what it is that you're feeling with the person openly and honestly, without feeling like you're going to be judged or ridiculed, or if a person belittles you in the relationship. I was talking, I don't know if it was in last week's session or maybe another session, or maybe with a client, I don't recall exactly, but I was in this relationship where my partner was emotionally abusive. I don't even know if I would call it a relationship because it was entitled. But in the relationship, I could not communicate what it was that I was feeling. And I was in psychology. I was, a case manager at the time. So I had the knowledge, I had the know-how, but I still felt stifled, like I was walking on eggshells in a relationship emotionally. He wasn't physically hitting me, but it still made me feel trapped internally, to the point of, if I'm not on the phone with him all day, even while I'm at work, it's, oh, you must be doing something. You must be cheating on me. You must be doing. Now, granted, we were, like I just said, we weren't even in an actual titled relationship, but this is the kind of power that he kind of had over the relationship, to the point where I felt like I had to stay on the phone, and I'm like in the middle of a meeting, but I have to stay on the phone to engage him in it, because if I disconnect the call, he's coming up to the job to see what it is.
Oh, Lord.
Certainly, I'm bringing some man to the job and he's doing something to me under the desk or something crazy. I don't know. But at the end of the relationship, on the tail end, I remember it was like Christmas time or something like that. And he wanted to come over. And he was just like, well, I'm not going to come over because you haven't been doing all the things that you need to do. Not doing all the things that I need to do. What are you talking about? No, we weren't living together or anything like that. So it's not like I didn't wash the dishes and I said I was going to, and I'm not being dependable. It was nothing like that. But I had no idea what he was talking about. I was so confused. The amount of gaslighting that I experienced in that relationship, it made me feel so uncomfortable. And I decided to call him to end things with him. And I called him. He said, before you speak, I need to tell you something. He went on and cussed me out for like 30 minutes.
Oh, no.
I can't recall. And he's like, now it's your turn. Now you speak. Right. I said,
oh my goodness.
I want to let you know that I'm done with this relationship because, one, I don't even know how we got to this point. And two, I don't feel comfortable. I can't share what it is that I'm actually feeling. Like I feel trapped here. It's not healthy. I don't like it. And then he was just like, of course, that's like you just to run. You can't resolve a problem. You don't know how to resolve conflict. And I was like, yep, you're right. I don't know how to resolve conflict. Click.
Wow. Wow. I'm so glad you got out of that relationship safely. Wow.
It was like I felt like I was in a twilight zone.
Right.
Like I literally felt like I was in a twilight zone and I had to do things to earn gifts, because she said to me, I'm not going to give you any gifts because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. What are you talking about? I didn't make you feel safe. How did I not make you feel safe? And then how also is it my responsibility to make you feel safe in this dating relationship, dating situationship, because it wasn't even a relationship. So it's just, I feel like we have to be careful too of the relationships that we get into. And sometimes you don't even know how you've gotten to a point, because I looked up and a few months had passed and I'm like, how did I get in a situation where we're going to a friend's barbecue and you're cutting me out in a parking lot?
Wow.
Like,
Wow. So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me even ask, was he like that in the beginning?
He was like that in the beginning. He was like that in the beginning. He was very like suave, and he made me feel comfortable. And, because then I wasn't comfortable with just letting people come over to my apartment, especially because my roommate at the time had a child. And so, I'm very cautious about who I'm going to bring around and things like that. But he made me feel safe. And actually, my roommate knew him ahead of time. And her partner had recommended he be someone that I date and all this stuff. So I was just like, okay, there was that novelty of the relationship that I
Right.
didn't really have to kind of go through. And I
Right.
felt almost immediately safe in some ways because my roommate was a childhood friend.
Right.
So
So they vouch for him.
there were a lot of things that I kind of missed over. I didn't do due diligence on because of where the recommendation to date him came from. So but he showed up almost immediately with any little conflict. And it could be anything like, I remember one time he would come to my house and he would drive there, obviously, because I lived in Maryland. Most places you have to drive to. He drove to my apartment, came upstairs, got my car keys, said he needs to go run an errand, and went with my car and was gone with my car for the whole day, which then led me to being in my space, unable to get things done for myself.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like calling him, I'm like, you said you were just going to be gone for an hour. I have things I need to get done. And he was just like, you could wait, like, no, but you have your own car. Why don't you just come back and get your car?
Right.
And leave me with mine so I could do what I need to take her up. Like it was, I literally felt like going through that entire relationship like I was in a fog, like it was Twilight Zone-y. I didn't really know what was going on. I couldn't peg any particular issue. And again, because it wasn't physical abuse, it wasn't like, okay, I know what's happening here. This is abuse. It took me some time before I could realize kind of what I was getting into and what was really happening.
Absolutely. And sometimes that emotional or verbal abuse can be so much worse than the physical,
Yeah.
because at least sometimes for the physical, it'll seem like, okay, well, at least it'll end. But that emotional verbal abuse, like there is no end, or if it does, sometimes the impact of it continues to bother us and plague us and make us feel inadequate and, like you said, belittled and put down. And okay, well, if he said this, it just replays in your mind. You're like, maybe it's true,
Right. Yes.
Yeah, but it definitely sounds like he had an anxious attachment style. I mean, he was completely insecure and wanted to know where you were and what you were doing, and even taking your car to keep you in one place so he can kind of contain you and, make sure he knows where you are, where there's no telling what he's doing, which is, very unhealthy. But it also sounds like he had quite a few narcissistic traits as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
gaslighting, the need to control. Yep. And then that cycle of like feeling like, okay, well, if you perform this particular way, then I can give you this. I'm very suave, very, and he was intelligent. He was very intelligent, which is one of the things that attracted me to him. I'm a sucker for somebody who have a brain. Okay, let me tell you.
The mental stimulation.
I need that. So, it was interesting, but I liked, I only share that intimate story so that people can get a sense of sometimes knowing what to look for isn't enough. Is also making sure that you're going back and monitoring that relationship and kind of like technically looking through it and assessing where you are so that you can make decisions to transition out of that relationship. If it's something that you need to do, if you've identified, this relationship is toxic, or this person is narcissistic, or this relationship isn't healthy for me. It's a decision that you can always make at any point. And if you need the support, you can also speak with a therapist who can help you with connecting the dots on that if you're still kind of confused about maybe what the relationship is, and giving you some conversation starters as well, either to see if it's something that can be navigated in a relationship, or if you need to navigate out of that relationship as well.
I totally agree. And I think just even in relationships in general, you know, if it's casual dating, if it's committed relationships, if it's marriage, whatever it is, I think it's still important to maintain a sense of independence and your own identity
Yes.
apart from the relationship. And again, that can make it easier, again, number one, to maintain a healthy relationship in that, you know, you have your own thing going, you have your own experiences that you're experiencing that you can then bring, you know, to the other person to share and to enrich the relationship and enrich the conversation, but yet you can be a part, you know, healthily enjoying friends or, you know, other activities or things that you again can kind of bring back together to enrich your relationship further. But that also helps too if you do find yourself in a toxic relationship where if you've maintained your sense of independence and your sense of self, that relationship, that toxic relationship won't pull you down or make you change your view of yourself or make you change what you do to maintain your health and well-being. You'll still have, you know, a sense of who you are, but also have relationships with other people that you trust who can be like, girl, come here. I don't think this is a good situation for you. I think, you know, he's kind of taking you down the wrong path. Or even for a guy, she seems like she's a bad influence, or, you know, I noticed she hasn't been honest with you about X, Y, and Z. You may want to kind of pull back. Right. So it's definitely good to, again, maintain your independent, your sense of self and have people that you trust around you, whether in a good relationship, bad relationship, or otherwise, to have your own and have people around you that you trust to kind of keep things into perspective for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Corey, for all of your input. I definitely value your time and all of your knowledge. Again, if there's a crisis that you're experiencing, please reach out to the crisis hotline at 1-800-273-8255, or you can text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. Of course, if you have any psychiatric needs or therapeutic needs, you can give a shout out to Dr. Corey. I'm going to also put her information in the description of the YouTube video, and my YouTube channel is at Counseling Conversations. Any last words before we close out, Dr. Corey?
I just want to say thank you, Lene. Always a pleasure working with you, collaborating with you, getting good information out to the people about, you know, healthy relationships, mental health, overall health and well-being, and how to seek help if you need it. So it's been a pleasure working with you as always. Looking forward to collaborating again.
Yes.
But definitely for anyone that's interested in psychiatric services, I'm licensed in Maryland, Illinois, and DC. And you can find me at eliteexcellencemd.com.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much again for your time, and thank everyone for tuning in, and give us a thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube, and bye.